So heat number 1 of round 4 of the JD Couriers Super Sedan Speedway City Track Championship about to come your way. A couple of holdings on the front row, Gil Worthley and Dave Walsh. On the second row, the number 2 of Dan Miller in the 38 of Tony Hallett as they go through turn number 1 and 2 for the first time. And Gil Worthley got a great jump aboard car number 3, and he'll go through turns number 3 and 4 for the first time out in front. Oh, the 68 of Dave Walsh is around. In the number 68, the Holden Monaro, the all-black race car. But we continue green through turns number 1 and 2, and it's Gil Worthley, followed by the 2 of Dan Miller. Miller currently in the second place. The JD Couriers overall track championship points race as they go through turn number 3 and 4. The yellow lights may be out. In fact, they are. As we have a look at the replay here of car number 68, keep an eye on the black car. As you can see, the tail just got around on him. The car got a bit loose, and as a result, it spun the car down there in turn 3 and 4, and we'll go to the tail of the field on the complete restart. Once again, we'll see Gil Worthley on the front row, but Andrew Leach now onto the second row in car number 69. Out of turn number 4, Worthley sets a rolling pace. We're green into turn 1 and 2 once again. As you can see, the beautiful sunlight here at Speedway City. A late afternoon heat race here. Oh, we've got a car in trouble. That's Gil Worthley. Worthley onto the infield. Rotten luck there for Gil Worthley in car number 3. The car number 2, Dan Miller, looks like he may have made a bit of contact with him. As he slowed up in front of him, you can see the bodywork damage on the front of car number 2. There it is, and he heads down the back straight away. Putting the move now on car number 38 of Tony Hallett. Hallett driving the Ford Thunderbird smartly, turned out indeed. The silver and blue race car looks very good on the racetrack. But our leader now is the 69 of Andrew Leach out of the Barossa Valley as he heads down the back straight away. Dan Miller, the rookie racer in car number 2, the beautifully turned out Pontiac Grand Prix, back there in the second spot. Then we go back to third, which is still Tony Hallett aboard car number 38. Now the top 3 at the moment, only a small field here for heat number 1 of the JD Couriers Super Sedan Track Championship. As they head down the back straight away, Andrew Leach in car number 69, the Chevrolet Camaro, doing it very nicely indeed. The car looks set up for this track condition perfectly as it goes through turn number 1 and 2 past the Kimber Knifton stand, now past the family stand on the back straight away. That's first and second on the camera. It's the 69 of Andrew Leach, followed by the 2 of Dan Miller. Miller now looking to the outside in turn 1 and 2. Have a look at the 38 of Howlett, also closing now. Howlett back there in third. The remaining cars on the speedway, the 68 of Dave Walsh, the 55 of Graham Stewart further back as well. Out of turn number 4 once again. This is a great intense battle here for first and second. Dan Miller once again looking to the outside. Perhaps a bit of contact there between the 69 and the 2. Once again, Miller looking to the outside. Can't get it done there. The 69 of Andrew Leach really has got the best running position around the racetrack, right around the concrete gutter. Bit more contact there in turns 1 and 2. Andrew Leach is not giving up easily for the race lead here. Car number 69 doing it very nicely indeed as they come through turn number 3 and 4. As you can see, the track getting a little bit slick there. It's starting to take a bit of rubber. Checkered flag is waving this time. Great win for Andrew Leach. Second to Dan Miller. Third will go to Tony Hallett, Dave Walsh and Graham Stewart rounding out the finishers. Heat number 2 now on the speedway. Gil Worthley unfortunately can't be a starter here, but we've got the number 9 of Chris Blunden in addition to the heat race here. Out of turn number 4, we're green. Andrew Leach, earlier heat race winner, will start out of 1. Chris Blunden, the 1984 Australian Super Sedan champion, starts out of position 2. Have a look at the 38 of Tony Hallett, a great move out of turn number 2, and oh, he's looped it in front of the field. Collected by the 9 of Chris Blunden. Oh, Tony Hallett had a great run coming out of turn 2. Went to the race lead and unfortunately looped it down there in turn number 3 and 4. Have a look at the instant replay. Keep an eye on car number 38. Both our leaders washed high. Howlett got a great drive out of the slick spot there in turn number 2 and then just spun it down there in turn 3 and 4. Hit by the 9 of Chris Blunden and also the 55 of Graham Stewart also making contact further back after the camera had panned a little bit forward. So a complete restart here, minus the 38 of Tony Howlett, sustained some damage with a couple of cars piling into him after that spin. Into turn number 1 and 2 for the first time. 5 cars here in heat number 2. As they charge down the back straight away, it's Chris Blunden in car number 9, the Shane Dryden owned Ford-powered BA Falcon. He leads through turn number 3 and 4. Great scrap further back. Andrew Leach, Dave Walsh, and the 2 of Dan Miller. But our leader is Chris Blunden in car number 9. Second is Andrew Leach. Great run. Oh, Leach has spun also there in turn number 2. Dave Walsh, another casualty. Oh, the 55 of Stewart also into the side of the 69 of Andrew Leach. Oh, and have a look at the car number 9 of Chris Blunden has seized the motor coming out of turn number 4. You could see the back wheels locked up, and the smoke also started pouring out of the back of the number 9 machine. Rotten luck there for Chris Blunden. As we have a look at the replay of the 69 of Andrew Leach spinning, you can see that the track is starting to get relatively dry there in turn number 2. And unfortunately he's caught out Andrew Leach there, and also Dave Walsh. And we look further around the corner, around the racetrack in turn 4, and you can see the number 9 of Chris Blunden coming to a halt with a major engine drama. That leaves just 4 cars on the racetrack. Dan Miller, our leader. Andrew Leach in second. Dave Walsh in third. And the 55 of Graham Stewart rounding out the 4-car field. So Dan Miller bringing them in very slowly out of turn number 4. All cars must pass the orange cone situated on the front straightaway before we can go back under full green condition. And Dan Miller is our leader in car number 2. Smartly turned out race car. Oh, the 68 of Walsh has spun down there in the same position there on the exit of turn number 2. As you can see, the reason that part of the track gets very dry is that that's the last part of the racetrack to actually have sunlight on it before the sun goes down. And that's the reason why it dries out considerably more than any other part on the racetrack. So there's Dave Walsh in car 68. Oh, once again getting it all wrong there in turn number 2. The idea is to drive the car as straight as possible, and you can see that Dan Miller doing it very nicely through that particular part of the racetrack. He must keep the car as straight as possible in order to keep the car from spinning out. As you can see that one of the officials was very casual in picking up some debris there in turn number 4. But with that piece of debris now removed from the racetrack, probably off of the 55 of Graham Stewart, a lot of fiberglass bodywork damage to that particular race car. We were able to continue green. If that bit of fiberglass to continue to remain on the racing surface, we probably would have gone to yellow. Just the 3 cars remaining here in heat number 2 of the JD Couriers Super Sedan Track Championship. Daniel Miller doing it very nicely, very easily in car number 2. As I said, very smartly turned out race car. A new paint scheme for that car tonight, or some additional decals at least anyway, aboard car number 2. There's a nice shot of him as he goes through turn number 2 down the back straight away. There's our leader, Daniel Miller, the Pontiac Grand Prix. The ex-Luke Pine car out of New South Wales. Out of turn number 4 in front of this stellar crowd here. Not a bad crowd for a club meeting here at Speedway City indeed. Out of turn number 4, that's the 69 of Andrew Leach taking the checkered flag, and third across the line will be the 55 of Graham Stewart. So the final of the JD Couriers Super Sedan Track Championship round number 4. 12 laps up on the counter. And our leader, or our pole sitter, is car number 2 of Dan Miller on his outside, the 69 of Andrew Leach. And Leach got the best of the start, and as you can see, the track very slick after the track preparation just prior to this feature event. And it looked like the top side was the place to be. And Andrew Leach takes over the race leading car 69. Second is the 2 of Daniel Miller. Then we go back to the 68 of Dave Walsh. The 38 of Tony Howlett racing with Walsh for third. They're down the front straight away. Howlett looking to the outside through turn number 1 and 2, and Graham Stewart back there in fifth in car number 55. Next, Chris Blunden, Chevrolet Camaro. Looks like the 38 of Howlett has taken over that third spot. Our leader is still Andrew Leach in car number 69, looking for one of the biggest wins of his career if he can capture it right here in round 4 of the JD Couriers Super Sedan Speedway City Track Championship. Second is Daniel Miller. Miller yet to win a feature event in car number 2 in his first season of Super Sedan racing. So both these two drivers looking for a breakthrough win here at Speedway City. Out of turn number 4. Great racing for the lead here. Miller now looking to the outside in turn number 1 and 2. Can he get the move to stick? In fact, he does. Dan Miller on the top side. A fantastic move in turn number 1 and 2. And Miller is now our race leader aboard car number 2, the Pontiac Grand Prix. Second is still the 69 of Andrew Leach. Then we go back to Tony Howlett out of Anglevale here in South Australia, in Adelaide's northern suburbs, back there in the third spot. Fourth is the 68 of Dave Walsh. And rounding out the field, Graham Stewart, the ex-sprint car driver, turning his attention to Super Sedan racing this season and is not doing a bad job at all. Finished third in the previous round of the JD Couriers Super Sedan Track Championship, and tonight looking for a top 5 result as well. But our leader is still Dan Miller in car number 2 as he charges down the back straight away into turn number 3 and 4 as we focus now on the 38 of Tony Howlett. Beautifully turned out race car, as I mentioned, the Ford Thunderbird with the Chevrolet power plant. It's good to see Howlett back at a big crash early in the season right here at Speedway City in an earlier JD Couriers Track Championship round. But since then has bounced back and has been steadily improving in car number 38. But our leader is still Dan Miller in car number 2. The positions are well and truly set in concrete at this stage. They look like they're pretty strung out here. First, second and third. All Miller has to do now is just hang on as he goes through turn number 3 and 4 to catch a quick glimpse of John Dawson himself there on the infield in the blue shirt. Keeping an eye on proceedings, watching his series go around the racetrack. The Super Sedans, a real favourite of John Dawson for quite a few years, and it's good to see John get behind this series via his JD Couriers business. Through turn number 3 and 4, our leader is still Daniel Miller. The track now getting a little bit more racy as these cars continue to circulate around the racetrack. As it started, it was a little slick, but it's starting to come in very nicely now for our race leader and the second spot driver, Andrew Leach. In fact, Leach may be closing now on our leader. Daniel Miller may be getting a little bit tense at the thought of having his first ever Super Sedan feature race win. Through turn number 1 and 2, once again down past the family stand on the back straight away. It is still Miller Leach. Then we go back to Tony Howlett, Dave Walsh and Graham Stewart. Another lap down in the book, not too long before the checkered flags will be waving in this one. Daniel Miller and the entire Miller racing team, of course. Daniel's father and brother both race in the AMCA National Division. Dennis Miller, of course, his father, and Michael Miller, former Australian AMCA National Champion. So the Miller family, a great racing family, as the checkered flags come out for Dan Miller. First ever feature race victory. Second will go to Andrew Leach, third to Tony Howlett, fourth to the 68 of Dave Walsh, who spins it across the finish line. Can you believe that? Spectacular finish there for Walshy. And fifth place across the line will go to the 55 of Graham Stewart. Checkered flag now in hand for Dan Miller in car number 2. His maiden Speedway City feature race victory here in round 4 of the JD Couriers Super Sedan Track Championship. And as a result of points leader Bill Miller not being here tonight racing up in Queensland, Daniel Miller now takes over the points lead by 11 points over Bill Miller with 1 round to go, to be conducted on March 31. So a great finish coming up for the JD Couriers Super Sedan Track Championship, March 31. All the action right here at Speedway City. And of course, don't forget to visit our website, www.ontheinfield.com. So the series set for a big decider on March 31. Let's go back and have a look at how the drivers got to where they are as we take in highlights of rounds 1 and 2 of the JD Couriers Super Sedan Track Championship. For the feature event here over 15 laps, Kim Cottrell lead them in, Bill Miller on his outside, then the 2 of Daniel Miller, the 71 of Colin Neville, then the 69 of Andrew Leach, the 38 of Tony Howard, Harper, Dryden, Worthley and Graham Stewart round out the 10-car field as we go green. 15 laps ahead of them here in the JD Couriers Super Sedan Track Championship round number 1. And getting off to a fantastic start was the 63 of Kim Cottrell. And he'll lead them through turn number 3 and 4 for the first time. Bill Miller in the second spot, Daniel Miller in third. Then we go back to Colin Neville in car number 71. Andrew Leach in the 5th spot. Then it's the number 3 of Gil Wortley in the Holden Commodore going forward. Haven't seen him out since that earlier crash we saw at the completion of heat race number 1. So it's good to see Gil Wortley back out on the speedway, but our leader is Kim Cottrell in car number 63, has won plenty of feature races around this racetrack, as too is Bill Miller, who now takes over the race lead. On the back straight away, the Pontiac Grand Prix takes over the lead on the exit of turn number 2. So our leader now is Bill Miller, second is Kim Cottrell, third is Daniel Miller. Then we go back to Colin Neville, Andrew Leach, Gil Wortley, Tony Howard, Shane Dryden, Dave Harper and Graham Stewart rounding out the field. Graham Stewart, a late addition to the field. He hasn't run any heat races. Has just joined the field for the feature event. We'll have to see how he goes in car number 55. But down the front straight, our leader is still, in fact, down the back straight, I should say. Our leader is Bill Miller. Then we go back to Kim Cottrell. Then Daniel Miller in car number 2. These cars are running around this racetrack at a rate of knots. Spectacular pictures here from Speedway City, the Super Sedans. And there's still 4 more rounds after this one as they head down the back straight away into turn number 3 and 4. Bill Miller doing it very nicely indeed. Kim Cottrell a relatively safe second at this stage. Daniel Miller back there in third. Then it's the 71 of Colin Neville, but there's our leader on the back straight away. There's the 2nd, 3rd and 4th place cars in the picture. Our leader now putting a lap down on Graham Stewart. In car number 55, Stewart, a former 360 cubic inch sprint car driver, stepping into the ex-Chris London Super Sedan, and is not doing a bad job already in on his limited appearances he's had this year. He's about to go a lap down on the 2nd, 3rd and 4th place runners in this event as he comes out of turn number 4. Hope he knows those levers up behind him. There goes Kim Cottrell around the outside. Also Daniel Miller, he has used the number 55 of Graham Stewart as a pick there. Great opportunistic move to take over second. He used the lap car to perfection, and Daniel Miller now runs in the 2nd spot. Kim Cottrell back to 3rd, and Colin Neville now has got a sniff of the podium back there in 4th. He is right on the boot lid of the Dodge Avenger as they go through turn number 2 and down the back straight away. Colin Neville looking very good to take 3rd away from Kim Cottrell as they go through turn number 3 and 4. Colin Neville a bit of a touch there, a bit of a rub, but that's racing in Super Sedans, no problem with that. And Colin Neville now takes over the 3rd spot from Kim Cottrell. Our pole sitter has now gone back to 4th as we have a look at our race leader, Bill Miller, who has absolutely gapped the field here. He's almost a half lap in front of the rest of the field. Daniel Miller, of course, in the 2nd spot. Then we go back to Colin Neville and the 63 of Kim Cottrell. In behind him is the 69 of Andrew Leach and Gil Wortley in car number 3. But Bill Miller is doing it oh so easily out in front. He's done a number of laps, make that a number of thousand of laps around this particular venue here at Speedway City, and he knows every part of it off by heart. Out of turn number 4, he's about to put lap down on quite a few of the other slower cars. The 38 of Tony Howard with the next, along with the number 9 of Shane Dryden. In fact, Dryden has already gone a lap down. You can see him in the back of the picture there a second or so ago. As you can see, the cars are really packed up behind the number 55 of Graham Stewart. Unable to get past the lapped car. We'll keep an eye on that. As you can see, quite a gaggle of cars in front of our race leader as our leader goes through the turn 3-4 section of the speedway. Graham Stewart holding up the rest of the field. Andrew Leach also involved in that, the number 3 of Gil Wortley. But the checkered flags are out for Bill Miller. Round 1 winner of the JD Couriers Super Sedan Track Championship, Daniel Miller, will come in for second. Then the 71 of Colin Neville in for third, and the 63 of Kim Cottrell in for fourth. And as you can see, the cars racing for positions all over the place there on the final turn. In fact, we've got a car in the wall down there in turn number 1 after the checkered flag. It looks like the 38 of Tony Howard has made contact with another car and has been sent into the concrete wall after the finish line. Can you believe that? So 15 laps up on the count of the JD Couriers Super Sedan Track Championship round number 2. A-main about to come your way. Daniel Miller, Bill Miller on the front row, Colin Neville. Then we should have Kim Cott, Trevor Ware. Then the 78 of Dave Harper also involved in this one. This one should be an absolute beauty, as I mentioned, over 15 laps as we go green. Into turn number 1 and 2 for the first time. Have a look at Daniel Miller and Bill Miller at the front of the field, side by side through turn number 1 and 2. And Daniel Miller on the bottom side of the racetrack will get the move out of turn number 4. And Daniel Miller is our race leader as they head down to turn number 1 and 2 for the second time. It's Daniel Miller, Bill Miller. Then we've got Colin Neville in car number 71. Oh, contact further back. Oh, have a look at that. Gil Wordley drives right over the front of the 78 of Dave Harper down there in turn number 1 and 2. And poor old Dave Harper got the worst of it. The rear end, of course, hitting the outer retaining wall and also having Gil Worthy drive right over the front of him. Disappointment there for Dave Harper in car number 78. He'll take no further part in the feature event on a complete restart. Luckily, the number 3 of Gil Worthy's been able to rejoin the field, as to the 69 of Andrew Leach, who spun to avoid contact down there in turn number 1 and 2. So on the restart, once again, Daniel Miller and Bill Miller on the front row, and this time it's Billy in car number 77 who got the best of the jump, and he'll lead them through turn number 3 and 4, 1 lap down in the books. Daniel Miller still back there in the second spot. Colin Neville in car number 71. Oh, Daniel Miller very sideways in the middle of turn number 1 and 2 has brought down Colin Neville in car number 71. Also the 5 of Trevor Ware was sent packing as he looked for room out there on the top side of the racetrack. Luckily, only dropping a couple of spots there. Daniel Miller, in fact, has come out in second spot. So our leader is Bill Miller a long way in front now of Daniel Miller. Then we go back to Trevor Ware in car number 5. Colin Neville is able to rejoin back there in fourth in car number 71. Then we go back to the 69 of Andrew Leach. In fact, Leach is actually running fourth at this stage. Then we go back to Colin Neville in car number 71. There's our third place runner. In fact, make that second place runner Trevor Ware, as Daniel Miller has looped it down there in turn number 1 and 2 once again. So Daniel Miller, after finishing on the podium in the opening round, not having a great run here in the feature event in round number 2. There's our second place runner, Trevor Ware, a long way behind our leader, the 77 of Bill Miller. And then we go back to the battling duo of Andrew Leach in car 69, the 71 also of Colin Neville back there, third and fourth. You can see them on picture as they go through turn number 3 and 4. Tucked in behind them, we've got car number 55 of Graham Stewart and the 3 of Gil Worthy, I should say. You can see Gil Worthy's car there minus a fair amount of panel work after the early incident with number 78 of Dave Harper. This is where the battle really is for third and fourth respectively between the 69 of Andrew Leach and the 71 of Colin Neville. In fact, Neville got right into the back there of Andrew Leach as they went into turn number 1 and 2. Almost contact once again on the exit of turn number 2. So great racing here from these two drivers, and as you can see, the 55 of Graham Stewart now coming into play in the bright red race car. Then we go back to the number 3 of Gil Wortley and the 34 of Ian Mason also involved in there as well. In fact, make that the 2 of Daniel Miller trying to fight back. Oh, the 69 of Andrew Leach has pulled on in the infield now, leaving the 71 of Colin Neville all alone there in the third spot. Oh, that's 55 there. He got very sideways on the exit of turn number 4 there. He may have got a bit of help from his friends there, that being the number 3 of Gil Worthy, or maybe even the 2 of the lap car of Daniel Miller. So the leaders now on the back of the 55 of Graham Stewart, and Stewart on the inside and Trevor Ware right around the outside as Bill Miller got blocked in here on the exit of turn number 4. In fact, he has now, and our new race leader is Trevor Ware in car number 5. We didn't really see too much of him earlier. We saw him a fair way back, but he's able to close the gap very quickly indeed after Bill Miller got hung up there in the lap traffic. The next car in front of our lap, in front of our leader, is car number 3 of Gil Worthy. That car not quite running as it should after the contact there with Dave Harper on the opening restart. On the opening start there in turn number 1 and 2. Gil Worthy now will He now come into play and hold up the leader. The number 5 of Trevor Ware Nowhere gets on the inside of him very nicely indeed there in turn 1 and 2. Miller follows him through down on the exit of 2. But now car number 5 of Trevor Ware looking to record his maiden feature race win, or his first feature race win of the season, I should say, as he goes through turn number 1 and 2. Beautifully turned out race car, and the car looks very nice indeed on the racetrack. Well set up. Of course, Bill Miller and Trevor Ware, good mates off the racetrack. Basically teammates, they work very closely together in the pit area. Oh, Daniel Miller spun it again down there in turn number 4 as a white flag comes out for Trevor Ware in car number 5. Miller in the second spot in the 77, a long way back to the 71 of Colin Neville. He's about a half a lap behind our 2 leaders back there in third, as the checkered flags will come out for the number 5 of Trevor Ware, second to Bill Miller, and third to the 71 of Colin Neville, a long way back. In fact, he hasn't even crossed the finish line yet. There's the lap car of Graham Stewart. Here comes Colin Neville back there in the third spot. Great race there for the